Hey folks, this is Fabrice, and this is an Ice Queen run, which is new and exciting for me. So I'm going to go with Rupture here, and I'm going to check the shop really quick. We have Baba Yaga's Mortar. I'm not going to get it because it's bugged right now in the game, as my understanding, that it works on every single chapter. So it's a little bit of it's an unusually strong item at the moment because essentially you get a free life every single stage, is my understanding. So it'll revive you every chapter if you die there once. So I'm not going to play for that because I feel like it's a little bit broken. But the other things in the shop, the minor shaping especially, are interesting to me. And there's a Rupture, so I get a stack. So the Rupture has two really nice things. It has the unlocked effect, which when I have all 20 stacks, it's going to apply vulnerable to targets that I use the trait on, Ice Crown on. And it also gives a damage boost per stack, so 0.5% per stack. I don't know for a fact if this is the strongest starting talent for Ice Queen, but at least it reads really, really well. Like it's going to apply a damage amp in the form of vulnerable, and it's going to give you a flat damage increase percentage-wise. So looking at that, looking at those things specifically, it just seems to me like it could be a really strong starting talent. So anyway, I go with that. Some of the things that are standing out to me as I've been trying to get used to the character, there's a couple. It's really important with Ice Queen to manage your chilled application. So you notice right now on this elite marsh ghoul, well, it's gone now, but there was an icon above the health bar. Yeah, then you see it again, and then I shattered. It's cleared again. But that is chilled effect, and the chilled effect has two reasons you want to apply it. First off, it makes enemies 40% slower, and that's really nice because Ice Queen is ranged, so it's going to be a great way to just create separation and keep you safe. And it also applies a damage amp for some of her talents. The special, which is Ice Shards, and the attack. So both of those will get additional damage on chilled targets. I think it's 50%. Yeah, it's 50%. So that's really strong. I'm not sure how that interacts actually with. I'm not sure if how that interacts with defensive abilities. Not defensive abilities, but enemy shields. I suspect it's probably similar to the 50% damage amp that you would get, say, from On the Hunt and Vulnerable, right? Like Marked and Vulnerable. So that's actually something interesting I should check on, because that could be really impactful. I've heard that Ice Queen is really... I've heard that her damage amp is really good, and I don't know if she has like just a straight up 50% damage amp, like twice the effect of Vulnerable on those abilities. That's really crazy. Although it is those two abilities. It's the attacks and the special, which make it a little bit less consistent. It's not going to be all the time. Also, another challenging thing with it is the trait clears the effect. So if you apply chilled and then you pop the trait, it has a burst of damage, but it does clear the effect. And there's a couple different items in the game that, not items, but there are a couple different traits abilities that Ice Queen has, which can interact differently with chilled and when you apply it and how the rotation works. So I think that's an interesting little bit of muscle memory that can be a little challenging. I went with Hailstorm, by the way. I feel like Hailstorm's just really, really good. It means that whenever you use the power, it also creates waves of hail that come down on the target a few times. It's really nice because you can kind of drop the power and go away, unlike the special. The power is really easy to get out, and then the special is a little bit more dangerous because you're going to be locked into an animation and you're vulnerable. By the way, Cold Heart is the one I didn't go with. I went with Ice Cores. Cold Heart got nerfed in the recent balance patch where they reeled in critical damage abilities. And it has a natural synergy with the second ultimate, which is Snowstorm, right? Because Snowstorm, you would drop that into a big group of enemies. You'd hit a ton of crit, and then yeah, you could kind of just do whatever. But now that Snowstorm has been nerfed, it's only half the duration that it was before. I don't actually know. I don't know that it's that good, and I feel like Cold Heart early doesn't seem that strong either. I mean, it would be kind of nice just because you do fight fairly large groups of enemies, but you're also going to be killing them really quick. So I don't know that Cold Heart is an early pickup, and I actually don't know if you're not going to take Snowstorm. I don't know that it's that solid. Again, I'm not a subject matter expert on Ice Queen, but it seems to me like it's just not as good as it once was. So anyway, the interesting thing is that, like, here is that Ice Queen is really it's really important because she gets so much extra damage from the chilled effect. It's really important to have that in mind to when you're applying how you're applying your chilled effects. It's usually a good idea to open with a defensive cooldown to get a lot of chilled effects out really quick. And the power is also really good for applying it. So here I lead with the power. I get the rupture off. Now the effect is cleared, so I don't really want to use my special until I use my defense to reapply the chilled. And that's all well and good, but this rotation is going to look a little bit different depending on the traits that I get. And I'll try to call that out as we come to it. I haven't really been talking about it, but a lot has been happening with my items. So I have 3 golden eggs and I have an Ogre's Blood. Ogre's Blood at this point with 1 stack, that means 1 damage per 10 vitality. So you notice I skipped ahead a little bit. I'm in the stone quest. I actually have all the stone I need, but my health is a little bit low. So I decide I'm going to take a little bit of time for this healing fountain. So I'll get some vitality, I'll get my health back up, and I get some damage as well from Ogre's Blood. Also, I'm pretty close to having 200 gold. And once I have that, I can put that into a minor shaping. I'll have 3 stacks of Ogre's Blood, so more damage, and I have Golden Egg, so more damage again. So all in all, just a lot of good value right here for taking a little bit of time before I go to the Stone Quest to farm up some gold and some vitality. Now, I'm looking at my options here, and I go with Slide. The nice thing about Slide is that it gives you another way to apply chilled. And I've been noticing at this point in the run, I have a little bit of a hard time making sure that chilled stays on my targets. So it's going to be nice, right? I get it up and I just make sure that I can keep it on targets consistently. And this is going to be a really interesting fight because I haven't had a ton of experience with this matchup, and I immediately just get whacked by these spider nightmares. I don't know what it was. It just seemed like I caught the root a lot, and right here, I was inside that AoE. I thought I was outside of it, and I was not, and so I just lose a life for free right here. This is just inexperience with the character. I struggled here more than I should have, but you live and you learn, or you die and you learn. And sometimes you learn the most in Ravenswatch when you're dying. I got outside of that one at least. But I think in general, spiders are a little bit tricky because of how much you rely on getting the chilled effect via the defend. Because skating... ice skating is ice skating just is going to take you into these AoE effects really easily, and I wasn't really adjusted to that. I'm sure that like with experience that's less of a problem. Notice right there I used a special and I didn't have the chilled effect on the spider, and it just didn't seem like it did a whole lot. That's one of the things that I just haven't at this point haven't gotten a feel for. Okay, Philosopher's Stone is a fantastic pickup for me right now. So this means I'm going to have constant vitality. I have Ogre's Blood. It's kind of an interesting combination because now I'm really incentivized to get vitality, but I'm running Ice Queen, which doesn't strike me as a super tanky character, but it's one of those things that sometimes the items are more important than the specific character. Like some items are just that good. Like old Golden Coat of Chainmail was pretty much an automatic pickup if you're worried about winning a run. But yeah, so Ogre's Blood and Philosopher's Stone is just such a good combination. This is another interesting thing. See, I eat the damage there from the Ghoul mini boss. I find that the mini boss fights are tricky when I'm trying to learn a new character, and I'm really hesitant here. I'm very concerned. I've actually died because I've had a couple runs that weren't very weren't great with Ice Queen before, and I have died many times to the Ghoul, largely to the bite. It's funny because the mini boss Ghoul can turn just as well as the little ghouls, and that bite is just so devastating. So it's really important to keep your distance, or at least be really good at managing your iframes when you're getting close to the mini boss. I go with Mad Hat here, not because it's necessarily fantastic. It has some synergy with Golden Egg, but it was more so, and honestly with Vitality, because if I'm stacking a ton of Vitality, I'm going to have a lot of health to potentially get value with it. I haven't had a lot of experiences with Mad Hat, and this was kind of just an opportunity for me to check out and see how good it was. And this was so scary. I did not intend... It was another one of those, like, I could have prevented it if I was more familiar with the character and the cooldowns. And so this was terrifying, this fight. And they kept dodging into the ground like that. It's kind of fun because your special works through the boat, so I got some value there. Or at least maybe, I don't know if through the boat is exactly how I characterize that, but get one here, basically just hiding around the corner. Yeah, fired into the wall a couple of times. But this kind of, oh, and I almost caught the beam on the other side. This is the kind of thing, the kind of enemies that are more challenging, I feel like, when I'm switching characters. But and if you look at the map, this isn't the most efficient run. I also don't have level 5 yet. So there's a lot to be improved on in the chapter 1, but the items are fantastic. Even though I haven't gotten everything I would have wished to get, like, there's a lot of great value that I'm getting here. I'm hopeful. The reason I TP home here is because I'm hoping that there's a teddy bear not a teddy bear, a gingerbread man in Dreams, and there isn't. I was thinking about going to that Vitality you can see on the map on the bottom left-hand side, but I didn't think I'd have time to go to the shop and go to that healing fountain. So I decided I would come to the shop and hope for a heal off of a gingerbread man. And when I didn't get that, I decided, well, I'm going to spend money here, but I'm not really focused on which talents I'm upgrading as much as I'm focused on spending money so that I'm getting golden egg value. That's why I mostly pick the cheapest options around. I also go for the shield because, I don't have a lot of health, and so I need something to just kind of keep myself alive with. I cleared these ghouls in time, but I still had stuff aggroed on me from up north, so I don't end up getting the fountain. This is a scary spot to be in. I'm coming into the first boss fight with pretty low health, and I'm not very familiar with Ice Queen. I've died a lot to the chapter 1 boss on Ice Queen at this point in different runs, and so I'm pretty apprehensive at this point about how this is going to go. But there are little things here that are helping me out, like the iframes. I've already gotten a lot of value from the Ice Crown trait. I also got a nice little bit of value from the fact that ice skating also has a frame of invulnerability. Or not invulnerability, but intangibility. I have to eat some damage there to get away from the divide. and we're doing okay right now. We're dancing well. I find that ice skating is a tricky ability to use in this fight because there's so much AoE, there's so much of this like spammy cooldowns that the Nightmare has that really make like the force movement aspect really difficult. And look how small, by the way, the hitbox is on Ice Queen right there. Like I still don't understand exactly how I didn't catch an arrow when I was in that corner. That's something that's very different from playing Scarlet Wolf. I feel like when I'm playing Wolf, this fight is just it's so hard to not take damage. And Ice Queen, although she seems fairly large, I feel like the hitbox is a little bit more I feel like it's even a little bit better than it looks on the surface. Another good bit of trait value there. It took me a long time to get value from those. I felt like for a long time I was just not dodging very effectively with my trait and with ice skating, but getting a little bit better. The funny thing too about this fight is that once getting to wave 3, I'm not actually playing for this. I'm not actually trying to min-max this. I don't actually have as much damage as I would like, but it is kind of nice if the fight goes for 3 rounds because I get value from Philosopher's Stone, right? I get vitality that way. It leads to weird numbers. As you can see, my damage is 45.5, and I think I get like 0.1 damage per vitality. So let's see if that goes to, yeah, so 45.8. Is that an 8? So 0.3, yeah, because I have 3 stacks of Ogre Blood at this point. But I am getting a little bit of value from these, and that's significant. Okay, so I apply the vulnerable, I use the power, so I do have frost and vulnerable up at the same time for that damage. I think that's one of the hardest things for me to get right, is to make sure that I apply chilled, I use my trait to vulnerable, I apply chilled again, and then I use the abilities that get extra damage from chilled. Like that's the ideal rotation, and I just don't hit it as well as I should. It's experience with the character problem. But we're continuing to scale off of the trait, and not the trait, but off of healing orbs, and we are coming up on our 3rd phase. So after this next stun, there aren't going to be any more orbs spawned. And as low as my health is at this point, I think a phase 4 probably wouldn't go very well. I might lose another life in it. So I really do need to end the fight pretty soon now. No healing orb there, so I'm just going to keep moving. That does turn out to be a dodge. I was worried there for a second. And I have 3 ice cores, which is nice going into this burst of damage. That's another thing that I need to remember to do, is try to make sure that I have a lot of ice cores whenever I stun the boss. There's a lot of like little mini things that should be happening, and they aren't always happening for me here, but it's work in progress. I'm getting closer. I ate the tentacle hit there, but we got the boss. We're into chapter 2 now, and we get level 5. And we have this choice. Do we take Snowstorm, or do we take the other ult, the Frost Ray? And in the past, it was always Snowstorm. But with the nerfs to it, that's not quite as good. It's just not as good. Like, since they nerfed Snowstorm, it's a 10-second duration. It doesn't feel as good to me. So I end up going Ice Ray. And I feel like I get some pretty decent value with it, actually. It's a little bit interesting to get off, because I'm going to be locked in an animation once I hit it. So I need to make sure that I'm going to have a moment after I use it where that nothing's going to come and get me. But it seems to work here, right? I get a lot of damage from it. The other thing that I've noticed with Ice Queen is that when she just has her attack, her damage output really suffers. So if you finish your full rotation, then just spamming her attack doesn't feel very good. So I found that Ice Ray was really nice to kind of mitigate that. Whenever I finish a rotation, I just go to the whenever I finish a rotation of abilities, I can pop the Ice Ray. But I almost eat a bunch of damage here because I tried to pop Ice Ray when the Phoenixes were charging up an attack. I almost got myself into trouble, but it turns out okay. And we back up a little bit. We have a lot of charges right now, so if we can get a special off, that was a nice dodge. If we get the special off here, it should almost clean up that Phoenix. So just need to be patient, wait for the cooldowns to come out before we close in again. Getting shotgunned by a Phoenix is such a downer of experience. I'm trying really hard to avoid that right here. The trait is very clutch to keep me alive in that situation. Coming back to the ultimates, I feel that some of the ultimates that weren't as good have felt better to me recently. So Ice Ray was the less preferred option for Ice Queen, and for Scarlet it was a Hunter Souvenir, and like that. Since then, I feel that those have been a lot better. I'm actually going to get some nice value here. I make sure that everybody's aggroed. I prop the Freezing Ray. And one of the nice things about it is that when I target an enemy, I could have probably avoided some damage there if I'd stayed on that one guy a little bit longer. But Ice Ray is just, it seems to me like it's doing a pretty good job of keeping enemies CC'd. This is a tricky fight. I've got a lot of crabs here. That was a panic trait. I just popped it because I was absolutely terrified. I have almost no health, and I see the healing down below me. So I decide I'm going to come down here. I'm going to get this before I go up against all of the crabs. I still get a couple crabs here, but I figure I can probably use the ult to thin them out, and then maybe I'll have a decent shot. Another thing to realize is that because I am up some vitality at this point, even when my health is low, it isn't quite as low as it might seem. And also, when I start limit testing here, I'm finding that I have more damage than I thought. I'm able to do better against the crabs than I was expecting to. So, interesting. So I square up here. One of them loses aggro. It's the one on the left side, thankfully, not one of the ones from the vision tower above us. So I'm able to clean up the rest. And now, having done that, I feel a little bit more confident about going into this fight with more crabs. Let's actually look kind of closely. Let's see if when we have chilled on an enemy and then we hit them with an attack, let's see how much damage it does. I'm curious if it's well, that messes up our science here. I was thinking like what would happen, and then I ended up stunning a lot of them with the ult. But let's see what happens. Okay, we have the vulnerable. That's going to mess up the numbers again. I think that was 1 damage to the crab in the back. So that means that the chill damage amp isn't, well, it's not like it's not a damage amp the same way as a vulnerable. That's my suspicion. But I think we fight the crab mini boss this run, so we can check that again. That looked like 1 damage. So maybe it's not a damage amp. Anyway, that goes pretty well. And I go with Shattering Blast here. So Shattering Blast is interesting because it's going to give us essentially a trait effect on targets when we hit them with a power. So that's another subtle adjustment that I need to make to my rotations to make sure that I'm keeping chilled up as much as I can. I feel like upgrading traits is it's tricky to do it cleverly and understanding the character's underlying mechanics really well. And in this run, I don't really know what to prioritize. So generally, I just go for the option that's going to give me the most golden egg value. I'm trying to get them all to bunch up there, and then I get some space so I can get my ice ray off again. And again, it really does seem to do pretty well at applying chill and cleaning up targets. Ice ray has really been solid in this run so far. I get a couple crit options, and now that I have Ogre's Blood, I actually have a passive crit boost. So that's going to be pretty good value. Crit's just a super solid way to increase your damage overall at the moment. So I always like to grab it on a build like this. It's just generally good, right? It's not like a specific to Ice Queen kind of a thing. It's not like a character knowledge. It's a, generally speaking, this works well in Ravenswatch. So always use that. And Ice Ray right here again. I eat I actually eat quite a lot of damage from the purple gen, but I get some damage to the rest of the crew, and now it's just the purple gen who's taken a lot of damage already, so I can kind of slow play this and still clean them up. So that feels nice. Here I'm offered Dreamcatcher, King of Clubs, and Jack of Diamonds. The hard thing is that the King of Clubs is appealing, but I want to finish my golden egg stack. So if I take one of these blues, these rares, I'm worried that I'm going to make it harder to stack my golden egg. But I don't get it on the reroll, and I decide not to keep rerolling, and I get this Queen of Hearts, which is actually going to give me a lot of value. Overall, I have a bit of sustain problem with the character, especially when you have so much HP. You really need percentage heals, so I was thinking the Queen of Hearts wouldn't be that good for me, but it feels pretty solid this run. And that's an interesting thing about Queen of Hearts. I don't know that it's ever something you want a bunch of stacks of, but I feel like if you have one or two of them, it's just solid. It's just really nice to have a little bit of healing over time between fights. We have the crabs outside of the crab mini boss cavern. We've already tested ourselves against crabs this run, and as you can see, it's really solid. And right there we could actually see, by the way, that with chilled up, the attack is only doing 1 damage. So it's not working the same way as a vulnerability or an on the hunt effect. The damage is apparently applied to the attack, not to the target's armor in any way. So it gets reduced down to 1 by crab armor. I was very pleased with how smooth these fights against big stacks of crabs are going. A lot of the time they're just way more brutal. So it seems like Ice Queen in general does better against crabs than, say, Scarlet does. Maybe that's an overgeneralization. We're going into this fight. I didn't even talk about all the little crabs, by the way. Still a huge fan of all the little crabs. We get this random crab that follows me in. I probably could have done a better job of aggroing that crab in so that it would despawn. But I just kind of ended up dealing with both of them. That was another good trait dodge. And the damage from the ultimate there is really sick. Part of that, of course, is that we have a lot of golden egg value and we have a lot of Ogre's Blood value. We're running 80%, 85% damage amp. And we get offered a Hope Diamond here. Also the Golden Coat of Chainmail, which is now nerfed, and I feel when you have as much vitality as I have, you're not that likely to just get one shot, or as much as I'm anticipating building. So going with the Hope Diamond, it seems really solid because Hope Diamond is still super, super good. Kind of maybe still broken. Don't know that Hope Diamond has really fallen off at all, that much at all. It's still Hope Diamond, though not quite as good as it used to be. I don't have an ult yet, which is a bit of a bummer for this fight. It would have been nice to have it here, but we get a big dash. We apply a ton of chilled. We get some vulnerable off, and the hailstorm kind of cleans up. And the ultimate is almost back, so I bet you I'm gonna pop it right here. Also, we have the oh, I guess I don't do it. I guess I just clean them up the old-fashioned way. But we're getting the little ice spawns from using our dash now as well. That's not something I played around very effectively, but it was an interesting talent for sure. I enjoyed getting used to it. And I believe I go Raven Wing here because don't want to dilute the pools for the rare items because of Golden Egg. And Eternal Rose is also really good. I could have chosen it, but Raven Wing, it's an epic, and I don't have any epics yet, so that's going to have a nice synergy. One of the things I think is really nice about Ice Queen, by the way, is her ability to snipe crystals from farther away. It's really a fantastic thing that she can do it so safely. I see it a lot in Chapter 1, but not quite as much in Chapter 2. I'd say that by then you're probably going to be strong enough to just fight things straight up. We get a lot of crabs here, and as you can see, I only have 2 minutes, so this is really inopportune actually. I don't get that much value off of the ultimate that I pop, and yeah, the crabs are still tanky, so I'm thinning them out, but I'm going to be under 2 minutes, and I'm a little apprehensive about the matchup with the Cyclops. I'm not that familiar with fighting the Cyclops on Ice Queen. Kind of similar to the mini boss fights that I mentioned in Chapter 1. I was a little bit apprehensive. So when I finally do manage to clear the entrance and actually be able to go into the cavern, I look at the timer and I think to myself that this isn't going to go well if I try to force it. I also have a decent amount of Dream Shards on me and a Hope Diamond. So I chicken out, I go home, and I spend some money. And then I look for other hobbies on the map. Grandiose Shaping, probably, to get more dash charges. That also synergizes because I have Slide and I have that... what's the other ability that I'm running that leaves the little shards all over? Freezing Stars. Okay. So I have Freezing Stars and I have Slide. So between those two, dash synergy is pretty solid for me. It looks like I'm just spending money on the cheapest things just so that I get a lot of Golden Egg value. Still don't have my Golden Egg set finished off, but that's okay. Also, bird aggro. These birds have been following me forever. Bird aggro, I feel, is a little bit odd sometimes. Not sure why. We're coming down to the last 26 seconds, so we need to clean this up really quick. I take some risks in here, like popping the ult. I just eat this damage. And I have so much vitality that it's not that bad. I missed that healing orb, unfortunately. But we do get a lot more shards. So the value is really good. And because TP time is now 4 seconds, I'm able to get back in time to go to the shop before we go to Chapter 2. To the Chapter 2 boss. I could have gotten Witch's Broom here, by the way. That's the bottom left. Witch's Broom is a weird one because it reduces your armor down to minus 25 and it gives you intangibility on your dashes. I think if you train that, it would be pretty good. But if you're trying to figure it out, it's going to be weird. And there's a lot of other legendaries or cursed items in the game that are way easier to play around and give good value. So I never seriously consider it. I didn't have any intention of taking it. I don't get the gingerbread man. That's kind of, you could justify it. It's 3% damage. So it's not the worst idea to have taken it there. But I decided not to get it. Just hold on to the 50 dream shards and take them into chapter 2. And that's a fine decision. There's nothing wrong with that. At least that I'm aware of. Maybe that'll be like a video someday. I'll just do the math on that. Also, Mad Hat, we should take a look at, okay, so we're at 57 dream shards, right? Sooner or later in here, I'm going to take a bunch of damage and we can get a feel for how good Mad Hat is going to do in combination with the Hope Diamond. And the value there, okay, got a little bit. No, I didn't actually get any money from that. Oh, that's right, Mad Hat. This is important. I forgot. Mad Hat doesn't actually get you any money in boss fights because otherwise it could just be infinite money with the right build. So for balance purposes, it doesn't work in boss fights. That's a good thing to remember. I have 2 ways to avoid these beams if they do get to me. I have the iframe from my trait, and I have the iframe from Starting's ice skating. I pop one a little bit prematurely there. Turns out all right. And I pop the ult here. I probably could have used more buttons before I popped the ult, honestly. And it would have been nice if I'd had vulnerable up first. So yeah, so probably the right way to have approached that fight, I should have dashed across, used my special, maybe use my defend again to apply the effect, and then my power. I guess there's a lot of rotations there that would have been better, but I'm just not that familiar with the character. Still optimizing my damage in the fight. Take some damage there. Yeah, that's a hard one when they get you like that. The trait gets me through there just fine. I'm still getting damage from vitality on this from the eyeballs, eye stalks, I guess. So I have a great incentive to take those and play for them. But when they have the boss on top of them like that, they're a little bit harder to get to. Okay, we go on them again. Nice that we have all those ice stars around, and I didn't apply vulnerable again, but it doesn't really matter. We get to chapter 3, and we're in pretty good shape. We almost have level 8, which could have been a touch sharper. We look in the shop. This is interesting. We have Cauldron of Durnwich, which reduces your healing, but boosts your vitality. I get a ton of value right now. I get a damage per 2 vitality at this point, which is really, really solid. So I see that, and I pretty much know that I want to take Cauldron of Durnwich, which is one of the only times I've taken it. But I haven't really played around very much with Ogre's Blood in the past. This is one of those interesting things. The item is so strong. Stacks of it are so strong. I don't know that it's... I've thought of it more so as an identity of a character who I mean, like, take Monkey, right? Monkey has a lot of synergy with vitality talents. But even on a character that's not nearly as much in their identity, it's just so good. So this is one of my big takeaways, is that, yeah, that it's just, Ogre Blood is just one of those items. It's legit. I go with Cold Heart here. I still don't know how I feel about it. It's been nerfed now, so it's not as much damage as consistently as it used to be. It's I don't have Snowstorm, but the alternative was like the special in both directions ability, which is also not one I take very often, that I value very highly. So I don't know, my options were just not the greatest, and I didn't want to use a reroll. I have to say, these mage witches that shoot the red lightning, they do a lot of damage if you bathe in the lightning. It's interesting how quickly they can melt you. You definitely shouldn't tank that for very long. But I wonder, there's a fairly high fire rate. Well, anyway, we'll pass over that. Now it's gargoyles. I eat a lot of damage here, but I have so much health already that it really helps me out a lot. These big gargoyles are much scarier than I have thought them to be. I have to say that I really had my eye opened a little bit. They have such a long animation, and it has such a broad AoE. Like right here. Yeah, I forgot that I died right there. I knew that it was scary, but yeah, it's such a big animation that it's and they track you for so long. It's a little bit deceptive, but obviously we die there, and I learned something from it. So it's a beneficial experience. Have golden egg up now, so we have the super effect. That means between golden egg and hope diamond, I'm at plus 80% dream shards, and that's really nice to have. Now I have cold heart here, so once I get that effect on everybody, it shreds mobs. It's very, very good in that situation. But I do think my main concern here is not so much my ability to deal with stacks of enemies. It's how am I going to deal with the boss fight. So I feel Cold Heart is still kind of a suspicious talent to pick up. Like it's okay. I guess it accelerates this part of my run. We want the dash here. We want Cauldron of Durnwich though. Like if we get the dashes up, we get 15% move speed from the super effect. But I go Cauldron of Durnwich for the damage, and then we come here and we start the side quest. Freeze Ray, still really solid, doing good stuff. Even there, I feel that my damage could be sharper. It could be a little bit higher than what I'm displaying at this point. Now I'm putting off taking the epic duplicate from the shop because I want to see what's in these two chests. So I'm playing more cautious around these gargoyles now that I've died to one already. I also went with Strafe, by the way. Strafe is a fun ability. It's going to be tougher if I'm strafing into a fight that has a lot of AoEs. I guess like Nightmare Spiders or like a boss fight. But it's pretty solid in cleaning stacks, or if you're able to kind of kite around a big enemy, like one big target. So it's a fun one. I ate a bunch of damage here. And then I switched to Freeze Ray again, Frost Ray. We have just the two gargoyles, including the scary one, which managed to get a hand on me there. Again, I need to practice dodging those guys better. Yeah, again, I'd love to say that that was intentional, that I'm just trying to get my Mad Hat value, but that's not great play from me. Get offered Horn of Plenty here. Horn of Plenty has one of the craziest swings. It's Horn of Plenty and green armor. Those two, I guess Ogre's Blood as well if you have the vitality, but I feel Horn of Plenty and green armor have some of the craziest effects if you have like one stack in the late game, because they build off of all of the talents that you've gotten up to that point, like all the stats you've gotten to that point. So it's really solid. It's very, very strong. The strafe value there was very nice. These alpha wolves can kill me, so I do need to take my time in this engage, and I end up running away a lot. I tried to get brave there for a second and then instantly took some damage, so it was maybe I think I was feeling the pressure. I'm relatively low health. I'm on my last life at this point, but I don't die here. I get some nice freezing star value on that cultist, and we do manage to clean it up here. It takes us a while. This is not the most efficient fight, but we do manage to clean it up, and we get to look in the chest. Let's see, and we get offered some things we don't really want a ton. We don't really need the Ace of Spades. Vajra could be all right with what we're running, but then we get offered a golden egg and a Horn of Plenty, and given those options, we go Horn of Plenty. Nightmare Spider, but my damage is quite a lot better than it was the last time I struggled with Nightmare Spiders, so I just have to kite the abilities, get some freezing stars on the ground, and then Hailstorm does the majority of the heavy lifting. Yep, we even get the stun off there. It's funny that cultists and Nightmare Spiders spawn on every level. I wouldn't mind leaving them all in Chapter 1, but I guess it makes sense. You know, I don't really know the story about the cultists, like why they're out here helping the Master Nightmare. A lot of in-game lore that I think we haven't gotten into a ton at this point. These because I'm so scaled at this point, right? I'm level 10. I have over 200% extra damage. These fights are pretty easy, but it's interesting to contrast them with, oh nice, Horn of Plenty again. It's funny to contrast, like I feel if you were at level 1 and you go into Chapter 3, it seems to me like it would be harder. The enemies in Chapter 3 feel like they have more challenging move sets compared to Chapter 1 enemies, which isn't bad by any stretch of the imagination, which is kind of interesting to think about. I'll probably do some runs to that effect down the road. By the way, I was holding on to a chest for a while. I was hoping to get 2 different super effects from the epic items, but my duplicate went to the stack that I'd already finished, so you can see that I have one on the top of my items on the left side. You see I have 2 stacks of extra defensive charges, and that's just fine. It was just kind of me trying to maximize that. This is my first time, I think, going into the Dullahan fight on Ice Queen. It may not be my very first time. There's a couple of times when I eat damage I don't have to. It's just Mad Hat value, right? I'm min-maxing. But honestly, I will say I feel like Arthur is just not a very challenging fight if you've if you manage to build it all decently. You usually take over the game pretty hard at this stage. Yeah, I eat that damage. 15 dream shards though. And oh yeah, this actually scared me because I don't often see his him attack the tree directly, and so when that happened I kind of freaked out and dashed in and blew all my cooldowns. So Swan Cloak, 7 League. Yeah, I think that's the right call. I need some healing, some more things to help me, because I have a lot of health, but because of Cauldron of Durnwich, I heal slower. So getting more sources of healing is really nice for me. And even though the effect is going to be a little bit nerfed, I also get the level here. And this is right before the boss fight, which is great timing for me. I have 1,200 health now, over 300 damage, over 300% damage boost because of Golden Egg and Ogre's Blood. So those items are carrying their own weight very handily. We're down to the last 15 seconds. I have time to clean out this fountain. And again, for sustain, I go with this Black Lotus. I look at the Baler's Eye, but I don't have anything that it would synergize with, and it's too late for Tomato Baco. I could have rerolled once, but the heal appeals to me. Again, it's not quite as strong because of Cauldron of Durnwich, but it's still something. And then I just need to get rid of my money and drop them into talents and get a lot of Golden Egg value. And Rupture isn't a great upgrade because it's already going to apply a vulnerable. It's a fairly long duration already. Ice Cores is a little bit better, I'd say, in terms of the value. I think I go Strafe. Yeah, I go Strafe there. And I can go Royal Ray. Actually, I don't really know how much of a difference Royal Ray does, that upgrade. It's the level of 10s are in an interesting spot because you really don't get to experience them in most of the game. And they come online when the game is almost over. So I'd say we'll have to see how chapter 4, it's not going to be a chapter 4, but we'll have to see how the last fight shakes out in the final game, whether or not those feel a little bit, the ultimate upgrades feel a little bit more meaningful. I have no idea how I didn't get hit by one of those bullets, those arrows earlier, but I am tanking some damage, but I'm also healing from my attack, and yeah, I have the dash as well to heal with. Get the stun. They're getting low at this point. I spread my damage just because I don't want to stun one of them when the other is full health, because I won't have time to finish them off. I was a little bit concerned with this fight. I wasn't sure. I didn't have experience with this matchup before, so I'm trying to play carefully, and I would say that I'm not sure that I wouldn't find that necessary if I had more experience with Ice Queen. We get the stun off, we get one down, and the other one is less than half HP, so it seems like I'm pretty well set to finish it up here. No? Oh no, I don't have quite enough damage to finish off the boss, so we go to a third phase. Fortunately, I'm healing up as fast as I'm taking damage, and so we're home safe. We're home fine. So yeah, this is my first Nightmare Frost Queen win. Still a lot to learn about the character, a lot more talents to explore, but all in all, felt nice. It was interesting. I feel that with the recent patch, the game is just a lot easier. And so it's easier to pull off new builds in characters I'm not as comfortable with. So I'm probably going to keep on exploring more in my next videos, get more comfortable on some of these other characters I just have a lot less time on. That's all for this one. GG's.